I don't remember what was said when I caught you two in bed. But now I sit here drinking shit beer, chasing Johnny Walker Red.
Hi, welcome to Clown Interrupted with KiKi Maroon. I hope you're all doing well. I am still crazy. Okay, since we last talked about dating a couple of weeks ago, I started doing it more. It's the worst. It's the worst. I'm just going to delete Bumble. I hate it. It's not for me. I couldn't even find a regular picture to use as my profile. They're all like stage shots or bikini photo shoots. And while I'm sure that would get me plenty of men to choose from, I don't want to use those. I feel like that would absolutely attract the wrong kind of guy. And so, yeah. And I know this app is not for me because I spent like an hour trying to Photoshop my clown nose out of one of my pictures so that I would look like a normal girl. I really wish that was a joke, but it's not. Not even a little bit. So yeah, I'm deleting it. This week's episode's a little different. I sat down with Nicole Morgan, aka Marceline the Murder Queen. She is a roller derby girl based in Austin, Texas. She calls herself a high bottom, which makes me laugh every time I hear it. It's a real phrase though. I know that. She tried a bunch of different ways to moderate her drinking, including putting washi tape on the bottles to keep track of her drinking. I find that so perfectly Pinterest. She finally decided that moderation wasn't working for her. She comes from a family in recovery. Her parents even met in rehab. That's a crazy story I will let her tell you. Honestly, I wanted to talk to her because I heard that roller derby was a super party scene and I thought it would be hard to be sober there. Apparently, I was way wrong. They are super supportive of her and even make mocktails and sober shots at the after parties to make everyone feel involved. I did not expect that. My assumption was that everyone everywhere sucks and are terrible assholes who will physically pour whiskey on your closed mouth to try to get you to take a drink. Yeah, that's a real thing that happened to me. Comedians are assholes. Anyway, she talks about her parents falling off the wagon, explains roller derby to me. I've never seen a game and I didn't even know the rules. We also talk about the mindfulness trend and its effect on party culture, which I find super interesting. I hope you enjoy it. Here's me and Marceline the Murder Queen.
And when tomorrow comes around, I may be 6 feet underground, but I'll still have one more for now.
There definitely is a lot of partying, like, after the bout. Like, everyone went to the after party, like, this weekend. And, like, most people are doing shots and, like, stuff like that. But, I mean, everyone's really respectful of people who don't drink. Like, one of the things at this last bout that they always do is they have purple drink because it's a blue team and a pink team. So together it makes purple. So,
that's cute.
But they made, like, special sober shots for, like, some of us. And it was just, like, grape soda. And so it's, like, they really go out of their way to make sure that, like, I'm also included somehow in the drinking.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Like, they're really respectful of it. Yeah.
Maybe I need to move to Austin because this is crazy time to me. Yeah. So how long have you been doing derby?
It'll be close to 2 years. And at the end of August will be 2 years officially since, like, I strapped on skates for the first time.
But were you, like, a big fan? Like, what got you into it?
I had never even seen derby then, actually. Like, I started just because I was like, this sounds like good form of exercise. Like, I just wanted something that was going to be exciting and, like, not boring.
Yeah.
And so I just decided that I wanted to learn how to skate. So I started taking the skate lessons, like, literally just for exercise. And I still had not seen a bout probably till, like, 6 months after I started learning how to skate. And then I went and I was like, that was cool, but that looked really scary. I will never do that.
Yeah, I've only seen pictures, and actually we were talking about how tonight I've got to, like, see a movie or videos and clips and stuff, but all I see is people smashing into each other, so and it looks a little terrifying.
There was, like, fights, which I didn't know that sometimes, like, they're not real fights, sometimes they are real fights, but, you know, mostly it's like your friends and you're just, like, fighting your friends, so it's play fighting. But I was just like, they look so tough, I could never do that.
Okay, what percentage would you say is play fighting? Because I'm very competitive and I don't think I would be capable of play fighting. I think it would start as like the first couple of seconds, and then I would be angry.
I mean, I think there is that it's like, it's your friend, so you're just like, oh, we're gonna play around, but actually I want to beat them. So I don't know, percentage wise, I mean, probably like half of them, it's like you somewhat know, like, oh, I'm gonna take you down, but then there are other times where it's like someone just takes a girl down and you're like, oh, that was not fake.
Oh, I can't. I'm excited to see this.
Yeah.
So you said you've been doing it for like 2 years now. Like, what it looks like, it becomes this huge part of people's lives. In my experience watching it, like people get really into it. And I was actually just telling our friend Kim that I've heard people be like, oh yeah, I'm going to church tonight. Like that when they're talking about derby.
Yeah.
So what is it done for you, or what is it about that?
So like I said, initially I was like, there's no way I could do this. I'm not tough enough. Like, I'm an accountant by day, so it's like it just didn't seem like something that was natural for me. But then like literally we started hitting each other, and I was like, oh my god, I'm capable of so much more than I actually think that I am. And so it did change my life in that way, because I was like, oh my god, like I can do things that I told myself I could never do. So then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this for real. I want to try and get on a team. And then it just completely takes over your life, because you start making friends with people.
So I just like stuff like that. I had friends who like went mountain climbing and started doing stuff like that, where it's like you pushing yourself past where you think you should physically stop.
Yes.
And that once you do that one time, you then start to question all your other things that you assume are limitations. And it sounds so wonderful. I don't do any of those things. I have a broken back.
Yeah, maybe not derby for you.
So how long have you been sober?
October 29th, 2015. That's my sobriety date. And initially, like, I got sober, kind of did like a lot of the stuff that they tell you to do, like really self-care stuff. So it's like lots of meditation and taking baths and lots of routine. And it's like, it got very boring. And I was like, okay, I literally need more in my life. Like, I don't want to have kids. Like, I like living in Austin, so I don't want to move. I'm fine in my job, but I don't like care to move up. It's like nothing was interesting on the horizon. And so that's part of why I was like, well, I want to try something new. And so like learning how to skate, one, it was exercise, but two, it was like, oh, well, that's a cool new thing to learn. I just needed something more.
That makes so much sense to me. I've told friends who have asked me about not drinking that an accidental side effect, I guess there's a better word for that, of it is that I'm doing so many more activities, basically, where like I actually just went snorkeling. I want to get my scuba license now. I want to go skydiving. And I think that previously, if I was bored, the default was always, oh, I'm going to go to whatever bar. And I'm just going to do that thing. And so you always had an easy default. And now that default's not an option, I'm like, but I don't want to be boring.
Exactly. Like, that's the number one thing, is like you realize how much time you have. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, did I really spend that much time like drinking? And then like you're kind of doing things that are fun. You're like maybe drinking while you play games or something. But it's like you feel that hole in yourself still, because it's like
days are really long.
Fun. Yes.
Days are so long. It's when you're not drinking all day.
Like in the beginning, that was so hard. Like, I would have projects like knitting or like sewing, and like I just felt like I was going from like one thing to the other, because I was like, there's too much time in a day. Like I don't know what to do with myself. I definitely had that, which was part of my like fear. I think honestly, even before I quit drinking, was that like, but what am I'm going to be so boring then. I don't want, this is part of my life. This is what I so identified with it, just being like part of my persona. And there was that, I don't want to be a boring person. And so I had to take it to a way other extreme in order to incorporate this into my life. So that I totally connect with what you're saying. See, the thing I think is interesting about though, like I realized after, most of the stuff that I did while I was drinking was extremely boring.
Oh yeah,
like,
absolutely.
That's why you do it. Like you have to drink because it's not fun. And so it's like you can actually do fun things if you're not drinking.
It definitely makes sitting tolerable. That's what sitting at a bar is. You are sitting and staring and suddenly this is an adventure.
Or being at a party where you feel awkward and you don't know who to talk to. It's like you have to drink to like feel like you don't want to leave.
That same guy I talked to you about, Andy Huggins, he actually said one of the funniest things to me, where I was like, was it weird for you at parties at first where, you didn't want to be the sober guy? And he was like, oh no, he's like, I always wanted to leave the parties. Now I had the excuse of, it's getting too crazy, guys. And he's like, I just didn't want to be there.
You're like, I'm just standing up for myself. Like, this isn't good for me.
To be honest, I thought that it was part of like the derby lifestyle might be why you got out. So did you have like a rock bottom? What was going on that you were drinking so much if it wasn't derby?
So I would say I was like a very high bottom. Like I never had any legal issues or anything like that. And like even when I told my partner initially that like, oh yeah, I think I might have a problem, like he literally laughed, like not in a mean way, but in a like, oh no, don't you worry, like you're fine. And he's like, you just get a little carried away sometimes. But it was like me, I would tend more to like binge drink. So I would be like, oh, I'm so good, I didn't drink all week long. And then like the second, you know, that you can drink, it'd be like, okay, well, I'm gonna have at least 2 bottles of champagne by myself. And it was just like that self-hatred that you have the next morning, and you're just like, why do I keep doing this? And I just got like so sick of doing that constantly, and then that I was just like, I need something more like in my life. This is not fulfilling. This is all I feel like I do.
Okay, so you're kind of making me think about how I always see like teachers where they tell you about like that they just like, they're like during the week it's like focus work, and then they don't remember the weekends.
Yes, like essentially that exact same thing. Like I think nobody like at my work would have ever known anything. I was super high functioning. Like I have a lot of perfectionistic tendencies, and so yeah, it's just like also drinking on the weekends was the only time to actually feel like, oh, I don't have to be so perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that makes sense to me.
And so it's like I just really felt, this sounds so corny, like not living like my authentic self or something.
No,
like,
yeah.
I felt like 2 totally different people. Like one who was like so uptight, but it's like I thought like that was the good way, I have everything together. And then the other way of just like hating myself, completely blackout drunk. Because yeah, like you said, you know, once you get past a certain point, like you're gonna black out every single time you drink.
Every time. Yeah, that's the goal of drinking at that point.
And like I still don't understand people who that's not their goal. Like that confuses me.
Yeah, no, I don't like it. The oh, but you can have 1 glass. I'm like, why the fuck would you have one? What is the point of one glass?
Yeah. Or I would see someone like leaving a restaurant and they had like half a glass of wine still, and it's just like,
You're so wasteful.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, the old me would be like, how can I go drink that somehow?
Yeah. That's funny about the 2 separate people. That's something that I realized later on, that so on top of performing, I like produce these shows, and so I am super control freak. It's taken me years to learn how to delegate, because I just was like, no, I'm on top of everything, and so I'm very like strict on running everything. And so the evenings would be when it's like, okay, but now I don't have to care about anything at all. And so it was having that extremes, like I needed that for the daytime extreme to be what I thought would be sustainable, was to let that happen every single night to counterbalance it.
Yep.
And instead it just like spiraled.
Yeah. Like you think it's working and you're like, no, maybe just balance would somehow be better. But then like I had periods where I was like, oh, okay, well, I shouldn't be so extreme on this. You know, I can't say I won't drink any alcohol at all. Like I'll just moderate. And like literally I would put like a washi tape like on my bottles of alcohol in the fridge, and I would date them, and it would be like, I cannot drink it until this date. Like that's sad when you're trying to like schedule it out, because I knew like, oh, if I didn't, I'm just gonna like drink that. But I'd be like, oh, well, it says I can't drink that until 2 weeks from now, so I'll just wait.
Oh, 2 weeks? I thought we were talking each day.
Well,
I mean, still,
or that.
Jesus.
Like I would just, I mean, anything. I would just try and like ration it out to be like, well, if I make this rule for myself, or I had a rule where I was like, okay, well, you know, I can only have up to 4 drinks or 3 drinks. Like it would always change. And like I had a while where, okay, I can't have any repeat drinks. So it's like, as long as they're different beers or like different wines, I'm experiencing, I'm being a connoisseur. So that's okay.
Oh,
that's not being an alcoholic. It's like every version of moderation that you can come up with, I tried.
Oh, no.
And then just basically realizing like moderation is not fun. It's like takes away the whole point. The whole point is like you want to get wasted.
Yeah.
You don't want to have 1 or 2 or 3.
I love that you use washi tape, because I feel like that is such like a trendy way to moderate your drinking.
Well, also just like the fact that I did it is like shows like the perfectionistic tendencies. Like, oh, well, I'll just schedule it out.
And I'm sure it was very squared off and like,
yes.
I had said for a while, I've gone through phases of like what not drinking means to me, and I really love traveling, and that is something that I've done even more since not, and so I'm very proud of that. But I did allow myself, because when I was in Japan, I was like, well, sake, this is, I never want to, you know, deny an experience. I never want to deny an experience. So this doesn't count because this isn't part of my tendencies. And as you were saying that, I was like, damn. Well, because I think it might have been part of like, well, now I've got to travel more to have more experiences.
Like I get what you're saying, but also like somewhat that is okay. So to explain, so when I first said I was going to quit drinking, I was like, I can see that a lot could come out of not drinking anymore. I could do all these extra things with my life. And like, I just want to try it out. So I had said, I'm not going to drink for 1 year. We'll see what happens at the end of that year. Like I might go back to drinking. But like, I loved trying new wines, trying new beers. Like I've made like homemade liquors and stuff at home. Like I used to love to cook and bake. So it really was for me like, well, I'm losing
You're
this
a Pinterest
important
girl.
thing.
Right.
Well, no, more of like
okay.
a serious cookbook collector.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, I was like, the only way I can make this work is if like I'm still allowed to taste things, which I know to a lot of people, they might just be like, that's so risky or something. Like if you're going to taste yourself, like you're going to have this insatiable thirst to just have the rest of it. But I feel like if I didn't allow myself that, I would just constantly be like looking at everyone's and like lusting after it. Whereas if I'm like, yeah, I can try anything I want whenever I want, it gives me that freedom. And most of the time I'm like, ew, gross. I don't want to taste that.
Yeah, that's yeah. I actually I've had that experience. Like maybe I quit many times. It was a process, but yeah, we'll say one of the many times I quit when like I finally realized I went and drank some more afterwards, and I realized it's like I don't like this flavor even, where previously that's I wanted it as strong as possible because I associated that with whatever wonderful things in my head it was. And when I finally got to the point where I was like, I don't like this flavor, I knew it was like, okay, I'm on the right path finally.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about that you were tired of feeling guilty the next day after all that. Was that just more about because you didn't want to drink that much, or were there like actual like, oh God, I did that thing again? Yeah,
I mean, that was definitely part of it. It's just like, when you black out, you just don't know what you do. And then like you wake up and you're just like, okay, like how bad is this going to be? Who did I text? What did I do to people last night? So like that's definitely part of it. Or like just things like you'll get mad at yourself. Like for some reason, one of the ones I was always so pissed at myself is that I left my purse in my backyard and like it rained that night, and for some reason I was really mad because my Kindle was in there, and I was like, I broke my own Kindle. Like, which is compared to other people like wrecking cars and stuff, like it sounds like so trivial, but it's not, because you still left your purse outside. Yeah, where I'm just like, it could have been so much worse, but just like the fact that it's like I have to buy a new Kindle again, like or new phones, so many things like that, or like
things you shouldn't have to do, basically.
Yeah. So like definitely that was part of it, or just like and luckily nothing was ever catastrophic, like I never cheated on my husband or anything like that. But it was just like things where it's like, well, I would have a better relationship with this person if I wasn't like getting drunk and then crying and like screaming at them for something stupid that didn't really matter.
Yeah.
And then also the guilt of knowing I could have done something like better with my time, and like so I'm an atheist, like I don't believe in the afterlife or anything like that, and so it's like I believe that our life is just experiences, and that's what makes it memorable. And it's like, wow, I don't have a lot of experiences like in my 20s because so much of it is just like drinking. Yeah. And like I want better for myself.
Yeah. No, I definitely relate to that. I feel very blessed that my job sends me around and I get to do like crazy, amazing things. I don't remember most of the first part of it because I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Of course I'm going to celebrate with champagne or whatever else is going to happen. And so, I'm all about experiences and just wanting to always like try the next thing, and which is probably part of the excess and the personality traits. But I kind of got to that point where I realized like experiences are so important to me, but I'm not retaining any of them. Yeah.
Well, and that's like the thing with traveling. Like for the longest time, I was like, well, you can't go to Italy and not have wine or something like that. But it's like, I know if that was something that I just allowed myself to do, like Italy would just be about drinking wine and nothing else. And it's like, I used to be like, oh, I'm going to Portland. Well, here's all these breweries I'm going to go to.
Yeah,
like,
here's a tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like having actual real experiences that mean something.
Talk to me more about Derby, because like I told you, I've never even gone.
So do you want to know like the rules, or?
Yeah, I guess just explain like what exactly. I know that you skate. Like I really don't know much about it at all. I know it's a sport.
So some people call it like football on roller skates,
Okay.
which like isn't entirely wrong. So yeah, you have everyone's on roller skates, and then you have what's called a jammer, who they're the person who actually scores points, and then everyone else is a blocker. And so the blockers are like in a little group together, and they're basically trying to stop the jammer from being able to skate through their group and pass them.
Okay.
And every time they pass somebody, that's a point. So you don't want to be a point.
Okay.
So basically you're trying to like stop one person by throwing your body into them or just like blocking them.
I wondered because I never saw a ball.
Yes,
I was
there is
wondering
no
what the
ball.
thing was. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. So the people are the points.
Yes. And so the thing that's really cool about Derby is like if you ever see a game, you'll see every like size and shape of person. Like there's one girl in the league who probably doesn't weigh more than 100 pounds, and she's like not
Oh my
even
God.
5 feet. Like she's really tiny, but being that tiny makes her really fast and really agile. And then
Okay, I was gonna say it sounds like she gets smashed a lot, but that's
no, I
okay.
mean, every body type is really useful, and that's what's so cool about this sport. Then you have people who are almost 7 feet tall, you know, they're just a giant, over 300 pounds, and it's like literally both of those people are just as useful.
Okay.
It's such a cool sport. Like I said, you know, everyone's been super supportive of my sobriety always. And like, I remember when I first wanted to skate, I asked this girl who was one of the captains of one of the hardest partying teams, like, I'm sober. Is everyone going to hate me if I don't go to after parties? And like, they're going to think I'm lame. And she was like, no, we would never. Like, you should still go to after parties. And like, everyone's wonderful.
That is really surprising.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
it
there's
makes me
not
really
pressure.
it makes me really happy. Obviously,
Yeah.
like I'm glad that there are these like subcultures that are super not pressury about it, because I've definitely like heard the opposite from
Yeah.
other people where it becomes very weird and people want to know, well, why don't you drink and what, you know, whatever,
Yeah.
and then it's very and I'm sure you might have been in some situation where people are like, oh, but can I drink if you're not drinking?
Yeah, or I've definitely had that if people are taking shots and they'll like apologize, like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I do not care. Like, I'll take a shot of Gatorade over here. Yeah.
I know that Robin went to like one of the like went to a different city. Have you done that?
I haven't done any of those yet. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm wondering how much of that is like an Austin specific thing. Because, like I've said, I've met many people in Austin that don't drink, and then you know when I go to Houston or San Antonio or Corpus, they're like, well,
Yeah.
no, it's a lot harder to find people to talk to, and so I'm wondering how much of it is Derby culture and how much of it is Austin culture.
I mean, part of it could be Austin culture. I do feel in some ways, though, that like even the national conversation is somewhat changing. Like, I don't know if you feel that, but I feel like I'm running into like more, especially like younger people.
Yes.
Even sometimes who are just like, yeah, I don't drink. I don't like how it makes my body feel.
Yeah,
It's-
for not any reason, they just
Yeah.
don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm definitely noticing a lot more of that, and I'm not really sure what the. I always figure that there's a catalyst for something somewhere. I'm not sure what that thing is.
Yeah.
Part of me wonders because there's also like the anti-social media, like the pendulum swinging the other way, where I'm
Yes.
meeting lots of younger people who have no social media at all, which is bananas to me. But they're just like disconnected, don't want any part of it, and so I'm wondering how much of it is that like swinging away from party culture, which I think is kind of pretty I mean, drinking every day is not seen as strange to a lot of people at
Right.
all, and so I'm wondering if it's just the pendulum swinging the other way.
See, that's what I think, that it's like you almost have like mindfulness becoming something that's cool in culture, you know?
Oh,
Like,
yes.
most people I know now have at least tried meditation like at least once, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like maybe they just don't want to live that checked out life.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've actually heard people seem to almost be getting annoyed at mindfulness because it is very catchy
Yeah,
right now. But I'm
yeah.
like, I'd rather that be catchy than than whatever other catchphrase that
Yeah.
we've had, like "Who let the dogs out" or whatever.
Well, it's like there's something to it, I feel like, somewhat too, because it's just like, it seems like so many people are just like being open about like, yeah, I have problems with depression and stuff, and it's like, well, how much of that is because, you know, we're just in our cars all day, like at jobs that we hate, and like looking at Instagram all day and just like not doing anything fulfilling. And
Yeah, I think it's probably either extreme because we're all working super hard, but at the same time we're all staring at our phone, watching everybody else is doing things way better than me. Look at this guy's scuba diving right now, or whatever thing that he decided to post that day. And so that's gonna like really force you to think, well, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
Even if we can understand a process that it's a polished, sometimes bullshit version, it still makes you reevaluate your thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also too, just like people being more vocal about it. Like, so my dad actually, I think he has like 5 years of sobriety now or something.
Oh, wow.
And so like that was also like part of why I quit drinking. It was just like I saw like his did get to a very bad place, and it was just like, oh, knowing that that's in my family, and like I have a ton of brothers and sisters, and can like also see the same tendencies like in all of us, where it's like, oh yeah, we could all have problems. That was another reason too. But you know, back, I remember like when he even first stopped drinking, like, and just his generation, people don't really talk about it, you know, and it's like, I tell everyone, you know, if they're just like, oh, do you want to drink? Oh no, I'm sober. And it's like, I don't feel embarrassed of it or anything.
Yeah, it's not a shocking moment. Yeah.
And so I think more people like saying it, it seems like it's something that's normalized. And then I think too, like in our league, having people be like, yeah, I don't drink, people will do stuff like make little, you know, mocktails and like fake shots and stuff like that for us, because they want us to feel included. Whereas before, if people don't talk about that, you know, they would just pressure everybody.
So did your dad, when he quit drinking, do you think that was that part of your like, oh, I can do it too? Or was it more of like, oh, I just don't want to get to that point? Because I'm really interested in that, because my dad actually growing up flipped multiple cars, and but it was at a generation, he didn't get arrested, which is bananas to me. He didn't get arrested. It was just that thing of like, oh yeah, you shouldn't have done that. And he's of a generation of like, you know, the road beer and all that stuff. It just was. And so then when I kind of went through my thing, I was like, oh, wait a minute. And he and my mom don't see anything wrong with that, and that's fine. That's them. That's them. But I'm really interested in being in what it's like being in a family who might be more self-aware is what I'm trying to say. So
to go back to the beginning, I guess, so my parents actually met in rehab when they were like 17.
Oh, shut up.
And like it's a very strange story. And so
it's
they
like a movie.
Yes, and they like immediately got pregnant. So my mom had me when she was just 17, and like they converted to Mormonism. Yeah, which Mormons do not drink at all. So it's like that was very helpful for them, going from rehab to, you are now in a religion where you cannot drink.
But wait, they both converted? Nobody converted each other?
My dad's like family was Mormon, but he was like the rebel. So he was technically Mormon.
Okay, but they were like, okay, we're going to do this now.
Yes. So that happened until I was like 15. So like there was never a drop of alcohol in our house the whole time. If I saw people drinking, I thought like, oh, that's so bad. Like, what sinners? And I was not raised like in that household at all. They got divorced when I was 15, and then both of them, like, they also left the church, and so like they both just like went off the rails. Like, not only did they start drinking again, but they're also just like, oh, we're just gonna have cocaine in our bedside table, like that's normal.
Oh my
like,
God.
Yeah. It was kind of crazy.
Oh my God.
Yes. So
do you think that each one of them like blamed the other side for like keeping me square or something?
Yes.
Oh my God.
It was like right at those formative like teenage years. That's when I started seeing that for the first time. And at first I was just like, oh, this is like bullshit. Like they're wasting their lives, and like I'm not like that. I'm better than them. And so like I didn't actually drink at all like in high school ever. Like I never went to parties, never did any of that. It was afterwards I would start drinking like with friends who were like all intellectuals. Like we would discuss Marxism and stuff. We would drink, you know, like more expensive liquor that we got from like their parents' cabinet, and I saw it as like a way of being like a grown up.
Yes.
So I was like, I'm not like my parents.
Very mature.
Yeah, I'm not like my parents who went to rehab. I'm drinking because I'm sophisticated. A sophisticated 18-year-old.
Oh my God.
So I always said like I'm not like them at all.
Yeah.
And so,
you rebelled in the most bizarre way.
Yes. And so then when my dad, like it was clear that he had a problem like for a long time, and I think my mom honestly probably needs to stop drinking too, but when my dad did, I still saw him as like very different from me at first, that I was like, he's just off the rails. I would never be that way. But then it's just like, you know, you start doing things that you said that you would never do, and you start being like, you know what, I could be that way. Like that could happen to me if I drank for 20 years.
Yeah. That is so interesting.
Yeah.
So I gotta go back to this. So they didn't hide the cocaine?
Oh, they thought that it was hidden, but it's just
but it was just in the drawer.
Right in their nightstand.
I was like thinking Valley of the Dolls, like a silver platter next to your mom's bed with like coke just on it.
It's in the drawer, but
that's not hiding from your children.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
there was also we also found dildos during that time, and for some reason we were just like, oh, we're gonna shame them, like me and my siblings, because I mean we're coming from like, you know, the first majority of our life we had been so repressed or whatever growing up in Mormonism, and then you're just like opening your mom's cabinet and you're just like, what the fuck, like dildos and cocaine now all of a sudden.
Oh
like,
my god.
Yeah, so we would like leave them out in the open so that she would just like have to see them.
Yeah,
and
we know about you.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Did she ever like acknowledge it, or was it just like put the dildo back?
Just put it back. Yeah.
Oh, yep. Wow.
You look so shocked.
I am. It's amazing. And it's like, I can see that there's like maybe it's like the repressed religion part where you're like, we're just going to pretend this didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And just put it right back and here's dinner.
And it's like, I feel like it explains so much of the way that I would drink, where it's just like, oh, I have everything together. I'm so sophisticated. And like, you know, if I would drink, it would be like an expensive bottle of champagne always, or like a nice liquor. Like I would never be drinking like Natty Light or something. So I was like, this is sophisticated. Like I'm doing it the right way.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem.
Oh my god.
Which I hear in the industry like all the time, like people who are, you know, you're supposed to be giving your clients wine tastings and stuff, like you're gonna taste everything, and you're just like, I'm sophisticated, I'm drinking fancy wine. Like I don't have a problem.
No, this is part of the deal making process. Yeah, I definitely get that. Like I said, like I'm doing the burlesque thing, there's a lot of like the faux glamour is part of the marketing and the selling and honestly just the bullshit that you tell yourself. And so that's part, but like the martini for breakfast, like that's such like, it's very classy old Hollywood. It's like, well, yeah, but now I'm drinking it out of a water bottle. But I've told myself I'm just being super fancy right now because I have the luxury of not having something to do today.
Exactly.
And it's, you'll tell yourself stories. I'm sorry, I can't get over this cocaine by the table, by the bed. I was so sure because I would always hear about other kids' parents. Like they would find things like that, you know, and like, oh, I found my dad's Playboy, or I found this, or I found that. I was so sure my parents had to have something hidden somewhere. I could never find anything in the house. So I remember checking all of my mom's herbs in like the pantry, where I was like, that's where she would keep it, where I wouldn't suspect. And like opening every little jar and smelling, because one of them was probably weed. None of them were weed, because that's crazy. But I was so sure they had to have something somewhere.
And see, I grew up thinking like, oh, only bad people do that. Like my parents would never. So it was like such like a shock for like, oh no, we do that all of a sudden.
Wow.
So it's like, that's also part of why, like, you know, I had such just like twisted ideas of like, is this a normal thing that people do? Is this not?
Were they in rehab originally for drinking, or was it
for drugs?
For drugs. Okay.
And like hard drugs. Like they both just like as young kids got into like, I'm talking like 12 years old, like getting into bad stuff. Oh
wow. But, okay. Yeah, so I guess post divorce you just kind of sink back into like whatever you associate with freedom and youth and things like that.
Well, and if you think they got married when they had a baby when they're 17, get married when you're 18, like you're probably just gonna go crazy once you have freedom.
You said you don't have kids, right?
No.
Yeah. I think about that sometimes where I'm like, if I was my mom, I would have a 15-year-old right now.
Oh yeah, I think about that too.
I don't know what I'm doing. The idea that I would be in charge of a 15-year-old, I can't even imagine. I'd have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old.
I'm like, I'm pretty sure my parents would have had like 6 kids now. I'm 31 and so I'm the oldest of 11 kids.
11?
11 kids.
Oh my God.
So I think she would have had probably like 6 or 7 by my age. And I'm like, I can't even imagine one.
She should have pulled out the dildos a lot sooner. That is so many kids.
Well, it's funny. People at school used to tease me all the time with all the kids, and they'd be like, your mom is such a slut. I was so embarrassed always. And they'd just be like, your dad must be so horny.
Oh my God. Kid logic. She's a slut and because she's got 11 kids from the same man.
Why is my dad so horny? This is so embarrassing. Oh my God.
Oh my god! So was this like a Mormon school or?
Oh no, it's just
regular
public school.
Okay,
Yeah,
just kids are assholes.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, they all knew that we're Mormon and stuff like that.
Are any of your siblings sober that you know of?
So the brother right under me, he doesn't drink, but it was like the weirdest thing. Like he had a dream, and like in the dream, some like old guru dude like told him not to drink anymore, and like he literally like woke up that morning and was like, "I do not drink anymore. I had a dream," and that was back when I still, that was back when I was still drinking. So I'm like, who does this? But yeah, so he doesn't drink because he had a dream.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Like he also has like crazy willpower. So it's like for him, these things, like he can just like flip a switch and that makes sense. Like what you said, I tried to quit so many times before I finally did. And
well, I feel like he had to have been spoken to by like a god. Because I mean, I have dreams all the time. Yeah. For it to have that effect, he had to have believed like this is clearly a real thing.
Yeah. So I'm like, he obviously like something had to have been going on that he just wasn't talking about, where he had to have been like thinking, okay, maybe I'm drinking.
Or he's
too
just
much
magic.
Too, and
he just might be magical. That's.
I mean, he had some bad nights too. Like I remember, like we would sometimes like go out as siblings on like 6th Street or something, and it's like, you know, he would like chest bump somebody, and then like me, I'm just like right there, like have my brother's back, like, oh yeah, let's see if this person's gonna. It's just like,
just getting ready to fight.
Yeah, and like us oldest 3 siblings were kind of all that way, where it's like, oh yeah. So like the sister under him, she still drinks, but I'm like, oh, it's a matter of time. You'll stop drinking soon too.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Did you ever get in any fights then? Or was it always just like, we're just hoping for it?
It would be like small stuff, you know, or just like the chest bumping or whatever. And then I loved to get in there because like I would get really aggressive when I would be drunk. And like, this probably goes with the derby. I would like love to challenge a guy to hit me or something. Like, come on, you can hit a girl. Like,
Okay, everything's coming full circle. Everything's making sense.
Like one of the...
You're getting the aggression out.
Yes. I used to like ask guys, I'd be like, punch me as hard as you can, like in the arm. And they'd be like, no, I'm not going to punch. Like, punch me. And like, they would
come on, pussy.
They would finally just punch me because they would get so annoyed at me. And like, that was what I thought was fun when I would drink.
I never got, well, okay, that's not true. I never got into a fight. I was gonna say I never got violent. I got violent, but I never got into a fight. I just threw glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to throw glasses in bars and cause chaos. I was very chaotic, but I didn't ever like physically attack anybody.
Oh, I mean, I didn't physically. That would be like the closest, like daring. I wanted like controlled. Like I still wanted to be in control of it, but I think I liked to feel like I was doing something dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes Derby all. Yeah. Everything's coming around. Yeah. You should try boxing.
I probably would be good at boxing.
I was going to sign up for classes actually like 2 weeks before I threw my back out. And I was like, okay, this is not a good idea. So if you didn't have a dream with a guru, did you use anything when you quit drinking? Did you go to a program, read any books, or were you just like, this is just what I'm doing?
So have you ever heard of something called Hip Sobriety School?
No.
Okay, so it's online, and I know she still runs it, but I don't think it's like as often as it used to be. It used to be like 2 times a year. But her website is like hipsobriety.com, and basically, you know, she's tried AA, but just like didn't really resonate with like the messages. And a lot of it is just like more self-care based, I guess, like doing things like yoga and mindfulness. But basically, like she talks about how you can just like quit drinking, and still be hip, quote unquote. I think she's like in San Francisco, and she's like in her 30s or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's just sort of like talks about like nutrition and like ways that you can like heal your brain from like all the stuff that you do to it with alcohol and drugs. And she uses like a lot of science-based stuff that's like convincing, like showing you like how you lower like all your happiness levels and stuff like that whenever you're using. And so then like trying to do little things that should be enjoyable, like they still feel shitty because like you've artificially spiked your brain up so many times.
So is it just like a blog, or is it like an actual, is it like a program where it's like week 1 you're going to try this thing out? Or?
Yeah, so it's 6 weeks is how long the program used to be. I don't know if it still is that same length, but each week is like a different sort of thing. And yeah, it's just supposed to be like building a life that like you want to be sober for is her main thing. Like she doesn't think that like you need to go to meetings like every single day for the rest of your life. Like she says, like, if you do that, your life just always feels like it's about not drinking.
Yeah.
You want your life to feel like something bigger than that.
Yeah. Not drinking is just a product of my life, not my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's mostly like more self-care type based.
Okay.
But then like you do have like a community. It is online, so it's not like in person, but you do have like a community of people who are going through the same stuff as you that you can talk about.
Oh God, that is so important.
Yes. Especially like usually when you're first like starting to quit drinking, like you don't really feel comfortable talking about it in real life, or you just think like you don't relate. Like I know if I went to like an AA meeting or something, I would probably just be like, oh, well, I'm not as bad as any of these people, so I guess it's fine to quit drinking.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
She kind of specializes in like the high bottoms, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I actually just had a conversation with a friend of mine who called me about not. I'm sure you have. Once people know you don't drink, you become a phone call. Who called me about not drinking, and she's like, I think I need to go to AA, and I was like, I like the program. I like AA. I totally get why people don't though. But I was like, I don't recommend that at this point. It's like, I really feel like you're gonna go and you're gonna be like, oh, I'm not this bad, I'm totally fine, and then you're gonna like spiral the other way. Because I mean, some people that's exactly what happens. They're like, well, I'm not sucking dick for vodka, so surely I'm fine.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I thought, and that's why my husband had laughed at me, you know, to be like, no, you're fine. So yeah, I think I found her blog by Googling like, not an alcoholic, but think I have a drinking problem.
Oh my God.
And she's like, kind of her thing is just like, yeah, you could wait till you have something catastrophic happen, but like, why wait that long? Like, why not get off earlier?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I'm going to definitely look that up because I do think that is the majority of people. It is rarely, I think, the massive problem, as much as people are just like, I don't want to do this, but I don't know how not to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So did you know anybody personally who didn't drink?
I mean, my dad didn't, but his, like, he was like a everyday going to AA, and like his was really at that stage where it's like, you know, the super like acute addiction, you know, where it's like, if you're withdrawing from that and you drink, you know, tons every single day, like you're obviously going to have like physical symptoms where it's like, if you're more of a high bottom, like you're not going to have that quite as bad.
I know this is a real term, but high bottom keeps making me want to giggle because of bottom. I'm sorry. You're the first. I've not heard that phrase, and it makes sense. It makes total sense, but I just think that's funny.
Yeah. Like, because rock bottom, high bottom.
No, it makes total sense. I just think calling someone a bottom is funny. So, okay, but yeah, obviously I think that a parental relationship is completely different than like having friends. And so I always wonder with that about people who don't have anybody to talk to. Some people are just like, oh yeah, I knew all these people and I'm totally jealous.
So like they have secret Facebook groups. And so like I did meet a lot of people like in that Facebook group who it's like, okay, well they live across the country, but like we can text or whatever. So, and they were super similar to me, you know, like they'd be like same age and like lots of same hobbies. So it's like, oh, okay. Like, you know, it's not just me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas I do feel like you said, if I probably went into like the rooms, it would just be like, oh yeah, I'm fine. Like I'm not like these people or something.
Yeah. There's a lot of I'm not like this. And then, yeah, I know that personally when I first stopped drinking because I didn't know anybody who didn't drink, it was very, isolating. You know, I had a lot of times where I honestly, we're talking about funny Googling things. I would Google I am lonely. I was like, what do people do when they are lonely? Yeah. I'm confused. But that was honestly part of the podcast. Why I want to start it was to connect with other people and be like, okay, so what are these other stories? And that's part of why I enjoyed the meeting, because I wanted to do that with other people. And my therapist actually made a really good point where I told her, I was like, I just feel really lonely after I quit. I'm like, you know, I'm at these parties and everybody's drinking and I feel so outside of everything. And she was like, okay, but when you were blackout, were you connecting to anybody? And I was like, no, I wasn't. And she's like, so do you think maybe you were telling yourself you were? Yes, I was. So it's kind of like that, being honest with myself about what was actually happening. And it's like, okay, it's easy to romanticize what was happening. So now that I'm living in the reality, how do I reach out to people and make friends?
It's interesting that you said that. There was a girl in the group who, now she's written a book. Annie Grace is her name, and it's called This Naked Mind. It's something about like quitting drinking, but it's really interesting the way she like breaks it down.
I like everything naked. I like that.
But she actually like videotaped herself when she was super drunk. Not videotaped, whatever you would call it.
Recorded.
To be like, am I really as, you know, because she did the same thing, like, oh, but this is how I have deep
I'm
conversations.
so much more
with
clever
people.
when I'm drunk. Yeah.
And then she just saw she was talking at people and like not paying attention, and, like didn't talk about anything deep, and she was like, oh, I'm completely fooling myself. Like,
Oh my God.
yeah. And other people I know have done that too. They would like videotape themselves to see like how depressing it actually is.
Oh no. Yeah, that sounds terrifying to me. I because I am a performer, it was a very public life, and there's a lot of deleted Instagram videos and things like that. Facebook post, everything else. But that was like day after shame. But it was funny because I never like stopped. I was just like, oh God, no. And then later on it was a joke. Now the idea of seeing some of that stuff is terrifying. And I know some of it still exists.
Yeah.
I know it's out there. It is terrifying.
Yeah. It's like when your Facebook memories pop up and you're just like, oh God, that's not a good memory.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of fun stuff. I always like try to like make sure I'm like tell people like, no, I'm not like, oh my God, that was so terrible.
Yeah.
Like I definitely had fun, just not all the time.
Yeah. Or what I think is just interesting is like when you can see a photo where like the person like looks like they're having a good time. Like there's a girl who's in my sobriety group and she's like, yeah, this looked like I was having a great time. But like what you don't see in this photo is like I had been like on a meth bender for like 5 days, and like this was the lowest like point in my entire life. I wanted to kill myself. And like,
Oh my God.
yeah. And you're like, oh, you look perfectly happy.
Well, so we're talking about with social media stuff that other people see those pictures and they're like, oh God, what am I doing with my life? Not knowing any of the backstory to any of those pictures.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So it has been really cool, like being a part of that group, because since it is online, you know, it's like it's easy to engage with whenever. And I don't know, like I guess I didn't have quite the same thing as you in real life, because like I wasn't really part of a community whenever I got sober. Like I hadn't yet joined Derby, and so it was like really just like me hanging out at home with like my partner, and that's like about it.
Yeah.
So I didn't have like that feeling of like I'm left out of something. But I was concerned about that when I got into Derby.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about, like the whole like mindfulness movement. I think that somebody who's nothing catastrophic happen to them, but that they can just go back and look at like, okay, if I want to, you know, live my most experienced best life, like how is this aiding or not aiding it?
Yeah. Or I've used it just like, you know, even with 2.5 years of sobriety, it's like sometimes like things just trigger you. Like I would go to like a food and wine event or something and it'd be like, well, I'm just going to taste the food, you know, I'm not going to like get the wine or something. And like that would still feel just like hard, because it would be like, but what if I could just have like anything? Because, you know, even if you're just having a taste, if you were to taste at every single tent, like you're going to end up with a buzz. And, like, I don't even, something like that. Like I'm not even going to taste anything. I don't even want to like go down that path.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And so like they would have tips like write your sobriety date like on your arm, which at first I was like, that's so corny. Like I don't want to do that. But it's like it actually would like help during the event, because you would like look down and be like, oh yeah, like I don't want to throw that away. Like, so it's kind of like practical things like that.
Okay.
So it's interesting. Like a lot of, I feel like the work that I've been trying to do in sobriety has been about like getting rid of like wanting to escape from things or enhance. Like I felt like a huge reason why I would drink is like it enhanced everything. You know, sitting watching Netflix is too boring, but if you're watching Netflix and you're drunk, like it's great.
Yeah.
And so trying to like teach myself to not escape from things, and it's hard.
Yeah. If you're bored, you earned it.
Yeah.
Did you go to therapy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, you seem
and
just
I'm still
super
in therapy.
Yeah. You seem just super self-aware and insightful about like just your life in general, more, not even just the sobriety, about what you want.
Yeah.
And I definitely find that it's people that have gone through that process do that. I'm very new to therapy too. I'm like, I'm talking to everybody about it. I'm like, oh my God, and my therapist said this. Why didn't you guys tell me I'm codependent?
Yeah. Well, that's like so interesting. Yeah. How like your little like addiction just kind of like flop around like other things. And
yeah, I just learned the phrase, what was it? Sober drunk?
Oh yeah. Or I've heard dry drunk.
Dry drunk. Yeah. So it's, where it's like, you don't drink, but you haven't been actively working to fix the thing that made you an alcoholic. And I was like, ah, damn. Because I knew instantly, I'm like, that's what I'm a workaholic, and that's what I'm doing. But that was through therapy. I could just hear the phrase, and it fired off all the synapses to go, oh, that's me because of this, because of this, because of this, because of this, bingo.
Yeah.
And I had that. It was so much quicker than like the denial that previous me would have gone through for years.
Because like the denial is not going to make you happy this time.
Yeah. And so it was like, oh, okay, so I got to work on this other stuff for that thing. Okay, got it. Check.
Yeah. Which, like, sometimes it can feel disheartening because it does feel like, oh my God, it's never gonna end. Like, there's always gonna be something. But you're also like, well, that's life, I guess.
Yeah. I keep saying, I'm just like, I just want to be fixed, and it's like, yeah, but that's not an option. You're never done, which is great because I think like when you're done, you die.
Yeah.
Like, why would you still be here if you were done?
Yeah. I can't remember like the exact quote, but there's like a quote from this like Buddhist nun person, and she's like, yeah, we think the point's to like overcome and like pass the test, but life's not like that. Like you keep failing, and like the whole point is to like keep getting back up and like trying again, and like that's life. Like you never overcome the thing.
Yeah, I think we agree on this where I'm like, the point is to experience things.
Yeah,
you're doing the thing right now.
Yeah,
so do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Okay, so final ask, and I gotta be honest, I don't know if the final ask is gonna stay the final ask. I keep saying like, maybe I'll get rid of it, maybe I won't. I'm not really sure. We're still figuring this out. I switched over. I did a comedy podcast for a long time, and so now this is like more conversational podcast, and so I'm like figuring it out.
Yeah,
basically. Okay, final question. So I've been asking everybody, if you could snap your fingers and everybody instantly around the world believed two things, what would they be? One has to be for the good of humanity because we care about people here. The other has to be completely selfish and self-serving because we care about you.
Okay. Probably my one for humanity would be that like we're the creators of our own suffering. And
yes,
that sounds like really heavy and bad, but to me, like I actually see that as a good thing because it's like I don't have to put pain on top of pain. Like to me, like being an alcoholic or something actually can be seen as like a really cool gift because it's like you're probably gonna get to find out stuff about yourself that like other people are never gonna work on, or maybe like they don't start till they're way older. So it's like something that I actually feel like somewhat lucky to have like figured out early.
Yes, I agree. You say that so much more eloquently. I always say my brain broke and it forced me to learn about myself.
Yeah. Well, that's a great way of putting it too. So like just because like things happen to us in our life, like it really is all like our perspective of how we look at that and like what we want to do with it.
I love that. I can't tell you that's my favorite answer because people would be hurt. But I'll just say that I love it.
Yeah. Did you guys hear that?
Okay, and now be totally selfish.
It's like not that selfish. That's probably just also another thing that's good for humanity is
nope, no goodness allowed.
Oh, what? Well, I was just gonna say be creative and do what you want in life.
No, that's not selfish at all. You're trying to cop out. Maybe this is just me. I feel like people do have an answer and that they're just scared to be selfish publicly. That's my theory, though. I'm not like calling you out on anything.
I mean, I feel like I pretty openly embrace my selfishness. Like that's part of why I don't want kids. I'm like, no, I want to do whatever I want whenever I want.
Okay, so this is no longer final ask. This is new. This is the new final ask. If you could make up the final ask on this podcast, what would it be?
Are you serious?
I'm learning.
God.
We'll come back to it. It's fine. Thank you so much. If people want to follow you, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram at Marceline _ Murder Queen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And when tomorrow comes around, I may be 6 feet underground, but I'll still have one more.
Okay, seriously, I still can't get over the cocaine and dildos on the nightstand. What the fuck? That is so funny to me. Anyway, that was Nicole Morgan, aka Marceline the Murder Queen. Roller derby sounds like so much fun. I have a lot of pent-up anger, so I can see myself getting way too into it. I'm glad she taught me about high bottoms. Still funny. But yeah, I think it's important to know that not everyone has a catastrophic story. It's okay to step off the train before it goes off the fucking rails. Not only is it okay, it's admirable. I am working hard to have the kind of self-awareness that requires. And I think it's amazing that she saw that in herself so early. I hope you enjoyed our talk. Also, I hope you enjoy the theme song. I love this song so much. The Last Domino is an old friend who used to be based in Texas, but he's now pursuing acting and music in LA. He was so wonderful and kind to let me use this for the podcast. So please, if you like it, pick up a copy. The link is in the show notes, like every single episode. There's also a link on the website, clouninterrupted.com. So check it out. And be sure you follow me on Twitter at KiKi Maroon. Let me know what you think about the show. Or if you have anybody you want me to interview, I would love to hear that. I need help finding people. And just in general, I love hearing from y'all. Thank you guys so much again, and I'll be back next week.
Now it's the last call for heaven's train. If only you weren't too late.
Yeah, we got it.